We're here at the Baths of Antonius. This is in Carthage. Everything you see here was underground, with the exception of the columns and the building that would have been around that, but everything else below that was all underground. This is where they burned the fires. This was the furnace area where they would heat the water. The Baths of Antonius were the largest Roman baths built outside of Italy. These two pieces of stone were part of the cornice, that is the horizontal element above the columns of a temple. They're clearly from two different buildings. You can see they're very ornate with lots of detail. Here's the North African American Cemetery. I believe there's over 3,800 American soldiers buried here who died during World War II fighting in the North African campaign. It really is something special to see thousands upon thousands of perfectly aligned headstones of U.S. soldiers here. The grounds are immaculate and maintained to a very high level. And really, if you didn't know better, you'd probably think you were at an American cemetery in Normandy. Here's a couple of really large mosaics outlining the North African campaign. We stopped at this roadside produce tent where the vendors were selling fruits and vegetables. We bought a number of apples, bananas, and oranges, and I think it cost us $2. It's the Temple of Saturn, overlooking the valley. Normally when we visited the ruins in Tunisia, we pretty much had the place to ourselves. Today at Dougga there was a festival of sorts going on. Lots of kids with their parents there. There's Hunter, Peyton and Monica. The Four Seasons Hotel in Tunis really was fantastic. The staff was very friendly, just a beautiful hotel right on the Mediterranean Sea. Now, being in April, it was a little too cold to go swimming in the ocean. There's the large outdoor pool. Here's the indoor pool. And the buffet they had was really good. You had lots of turkey sausage. Of course, you can't get pork there. Here's a big honeycomb brick. Lots of fresh fruit and vegetable dishes. I mean, just lots of fresh organic foods. Aside from the desserts, I mean, you really just don't see a lot of processed foods. But their desserts were really good as well. Borj Cedria is a World War II German military cemetery for the over 8,600 soldiers who lost their lives in the North African campaign in Tunisia. Oh boy. Jeez.
Exit the roundabout onto P3.
This is the Roman settlement of Sbeitla, which is in western central Tunisia in the Kasserine district. It's about a 2.5-hour drive from Sousse, about 100 miles, and it is well worth it. This was a flourishing Roman settlement in the 1st century AD, where olive oil was the primary industry. Sbeitla is arguably the best preserved Roman ruin, not just in Tunisia, but all of North Africa. The entry gateway arch into the Forum was dedicated to Antonius Pius, the Roman emperor from 138 to 161 AD. These freestanding temples were dedicated to the primary Roman gods of Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. Probably had statues in these niches. About 6-7 feet tall. That one's about 10 to 11 feet tall. and virtually no one here. We pretty much have the place to ourselves. This square-shaped rock wall area surrounding the temples was the Forum. This was a public area that served as the main legal and commercial area for Sbeitla. You had elections, public speeches, trials were held here, etc. This was a baptismal bath, still covered in a tile mosaic. While the Romans were in North Africa, Christianity was heavily practiced. The amount of mosaics all around Sbeitla that are still intact is pretty amazing, and you can actually walk right up to them. You can see a dolphin, some fish, an eel, an old baptismal pool. Olive tree groves are all over central and northern Tunisia. In central Tunisia, the topography and landscape is very similar to that of the high desert southeast of Tucson. This mountain range in the distance looks like that could be the Rincon Mountains north of Benson. Hunter and I pulled off the highway and walked up the top of this hill to get a look around. Very scenic up here, actually. Back in Sousse, this is the view from our hotel room overlooking the Mediterranean. Monica and Peyton stayed back at the hotel this day and just had a girls' day laying out on the beach.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. I did. This one's a lot nicer than the other one.
There goes Monica and Peyton. Funny.
You up here? Yeah.
Here we are at El Jem Coliseum, built in the 2nd century AD, here in Tunisia. This is the hypogeum of El Jem. This was the area under the floor of the Colosseum that has a network of tunnels and chambers that housed all the gladiators and animals.
Wrong one-way street, and they're going because all the never mind. It's cars.
No one's getting mad or yelling at me, so maybe it's not a one-way street. Like most towns in Tunisia, they were built around 600 to 700 AD, and the streets were really meant for foot traffic, horse wagons, and chariots, and are therefore very narrow, which makes for a very interesting driving endeavor. There are very few, if any, road signs, so you have to go slow and assume that there will be oncoming traffic and people in the roadway. That's good.
Alright, thank you.
Peyton's getting a smoothie here. We're in the Medina. How was that?
Thank you.
Pretty good. Let me just kind of go down here.
That's where they got to. He's in that one,
راس في الشغل مش عارف اللي يجي